Okay, great, Tony. No rush. Take your time.
Great.
Nancy, you're muted. Lynn, you are muted.
Was saying thank you everyone for
Now
holding
you're
on.
back.
Took a while
Yes,
to
thank
get
you
there.
all. I don't know what the problem is, but I apologize for it.
Paul, it's only 8 minutes past 7.
Yeah, I
It's-
understand that, but it shouldn't have happened.
it's
Okay.
nothing. Okay. Well, all right. I am Lynn Spencer. I am lucky enough to chair the Nahant's Community Preservation Committee. I am calling this meeting to order at 7:09 p.m. Thank you, Paul, for your diligence in making this work.
So
Joining
good.
me tonight are other members of the committee, Paul Spurn, Ellen Goldberg, and Austin Antrim, all members at large. Nancy Catalmo representing Open Space and Recreation. And I thought I saw Dave. Yes, I see Dave Wilson.
Willie, there he is.
I see Willie. Hi, Willie. Representing the community housing. We are also fortunate to be joined by Deborah Warren, who is our liaison with FinCom, and another person who I don't know who they are. I simply see a phone number. Do you want to identify yourself? Phone number?
I think that's me, Tony.
Okay, that's
Okay.
Tony. Okay, good. More than a phone number. So I'd like to start with a review of minutes, and these would be minutes, Paul, that Austin sent out earlier today. They
And
would
I
have,
think I'm sharing my screen, am I?
Yeah.
you are sharing your screen
Right.
with warrant items, not
Okay, and
with
here
the
we go.
minutes.
Wait a minute. Here comes the CPC minutes. That should be they.
Yeah.
Right. And these were the minutes from our meeting on Wednesday, February 19th.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Austin.
You're welcome. Sorry I didn't have them last week.
Well, I had a chance to review them and they looked good, but I'll ask others from the committee to do the same.
And I'll keep minutes for tonight as well.
Oh gosh, thank you. Did you just hear me? My pages flipping in my notebook thinking I would be doing it? Okay.
Oh, what's that?
On this page that's on the screen right now, I would like to gently suggest this edit. This last line, which starts with, it's about the public library, it starts with potentially for an expansion of the library for a more modern building, programming and use. I'd like to gentle that down a little bit. And maybe it simply says for expanded building programming and use rather than modern. Does anyone
Understood.
else feel that way?
I mean, you
Well,
could
I think it's
just,
actually bringing the full potential of the building into use. And currently now, there's a lot that isn't usable. So I don't know
Right,
if
but
is the right word or
Well-
recapture of part of the building that has actually fallen into disuse. I don't know if the second floor room was ever used.
yes, it was.
Yeah.
So it's really, it's for restoring into useful shape, useful condition, large areas of the building that are no longer usable.
but you could also just cut that whole thing out and just say in discussions regarding a capital campaign period. Because it's not really our place to say what the library intends to do with their capital campaign.
Well, we're going to address that in the article in any case. I don't think the minutes have to go into it in detail. I think you're right, Ellen.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's just put a period after endowment building fund and
Okay,
drop
who's
that.
who's going to do that? You want me to do that on this or?
No, I'll do that,
No.
Paul.
Okay, great. Thank you,
Yep.
Austin.
All right, raise your hand who read the 200 pages of the attachments of the library's application.
I got through a lot of it.
Good for you.
You get the best grade, Austin.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I'll take.
Ellen, I'm just thinking maybe there ought to be a note in the online application that we certainly don't want to prevent anybody from adding anything they think is necessary, but less is more.
Yeah, I mean, when we do our grant applications, some of them are completely, they're character limited. When we do
Yeah.
grant applications for work and they do that intentionally.
Yeah, sure.
They're like,
But
winnow it down.
but in truth, folks, with the public library, we do need to actually look at that capital
Oh, yes. Oh,
plan
sure. No,
that
I
we
think that's
funded.
exactly right.
And I know it's long, but need to it's accountability. But anyway, let's just keep going here because we have a long night in front of us.
Yeah.
Apart from the comment we just made about the public library notes, are there any other notes or comments from the committee on these minutes? If not, can I get a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
I so move.
And who's going to second that fun thing?
Nancy will second.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, all in favor? Austin,
Aye.
Ellen,
Bye.
Dave,
You're muted, Dave.
maybe I'll return to Dave. Nancy,
Aye.
yeah, you already seconded it. Chair votes aye.
I vote aye also.
Paul votes aye.
Yep.
Dave, are you there?
He is.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah,
Okay, thank you. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Austin. You could make that edit and then send the minutes in to Diane. She will be happy about that.
Good.
I failed in my homework assignment. I did not do the minutes for our meeting on the 24th, but I'm looking at them in my notebook and I took good notes. I just need to get them onto the screen. So Next week, you'll have those. But I think the work that we're doing tonight is reflective of the activity that we went through last week, which was basically voting for 5 of the 6 articles as they had been presented to us, with the 6th, the public library, under continued review. So with that, Paul, let us get the grant summary up on the screen, please.
And that is this one.
Yes, thank you. Okay. And we'll be actually reviewing the articles which have been drafted, which is a marvelous thing. And thank you, Ellen, for compiling the contributions of the various folks who actually undertook writing the articles. I just want to sort of have us take a look at the big picture for a moment on the finances before we go back into the text in detail. And that is basically, we're looking at the 6 articles and I'll just run through them in order. For the life-saving station at $150,000, the Housing Authority Spring Road roofs for $40,000, the American Legion Veterans Park flagpoles for $9,243, and then the Nahant Public Library. This is something that we will need to vote on further tonight, but we are looking at a $500,000 bond, and the first year's payment would be $78,500 on that. Next, we've got the Town of Nahant Pleasant Street Playground, a $50,000 grant. And then last on this list of new grants is the Open Space Bailey's Hill Ecological Management Phase 2 for $39,345. Paul, if you can just scroll down.
Yep.
By the way, these subtotal, sorry. Yeah. Ellen?
I did want to point out something, that the playground, and I needed to check this with Tony, because in the application it says that it's for purchase of the equipment only, and that the DPW would be dealing with it. So I didn't know if that meant that they would be picking. It was unclear in the application, because I'm the one who wrote that article. So it was unclear. So what I'm trying to get at is there's potentially a match in that number. In addition to that 50, there should be some value added for the labor. If the DPW is going to install it, we could attach a value to it.
That's a great point. So let's sort of leave that as something that we're going to learn more about.
It's in the narrative. I have questions in there, so when we get to it, we can. But I just want to point it out here too.
By the way, is your cat ever going to have kittens? Because I'm signing up. You've got a cat right behind you.
No, that's a big dog, Lynn.
Oh, it's a dog?
It's 2 giant dogs.
It's a giant dog.
But it looks like a cat.
Come on. Come on. Get up here. It's a
That's
German
so funny.
Shepherd.
Don't, I'm a kitty cat. I don't know. Anyway, these 6 grants in these amounts total around $367,000. Then as we scroll down in the spreadsheet, Paul, please.
Yep, you will. Just a minute.
So handy. So we have the $10,000 for the administrative costs. The pay down on the fiscal year 19 library bond is $184,060.91. And then we are looking at an interest only payment on fiscal year 22 of $6,058.13. This is with Allison's suggestion, by the way. And then for fiscal year 23, for the town hall, library, and cemetery bond, we're doing an interest plus principal of $30,848.25. Not all of this bonding money in both of these accounts has been taken. So as the bands are read and we take more money for projects that are in that funding group, that those costs will likely increase. We have a small amount of money that needs to get designated to the housing reserve because the 10% of our annual appropriation would be $43,225. We are looking at granting a $40,000 grant to the Housing Authority. So the net amount, $4,322, goes into the housing reserve. So that all subtotals $602,377.29. So Paul, if you could just scroll down a little
Yep.
bit further. Okay, stop here, please. Our money this year, based on a 40% state match, is $432,258. We would be using we have a general reserve of $134,727,000. The housing reserve remains intact at $95,797. And then I dropped down to show that we have $88,104 in clawbacks that have been confirmed by the grant recipients. So these are green light to take back. Plus, Austin, I think you have something to report.
Yes, the Dory Club did confirm they are not moving forward with the Davit portion of that project that was approved, so that $17,000 can be returned.
Which is lovely news.
Yeah.
Because that really will be a nice little sort of bump up, because what you're seeing here is if we actually grant the grants and deal with the bonds in the way that we've described at $602,000, we would have, help me, about $677,000 with that extra $17,000 we just heard about. So we will still maintain a pretty good sized general reserve. So any questions or thoughts about all that?
The housing reserve, so is the money from the roof for the money for the roof, the grant money for the roof, will that come from the housing reserve, or is that going to come from the new?
No, it comes from the new.
Okay.
Yeah, that net amount of $4,322 gets added to this
Okay.
housing reserve.
Okay.
You might have seen that in the clawback schedule, I had identified several things that were still on Tony Barletta's desk for consideration. But one of them was that $17,000, but we already learned about that. So the other two are fairly low amounts of money. So it's not going to make a big impact on the clawback schedule. So unless there's any further questions about the amounts of grants or the bonding strategy that we're talking about, let's look at the articles themselves.
So if it would be okay, it might make more sense for me to have this open so that I can just make red lines as we go along.
Can you open it on your computer and make the changes on your computer? And we'll look at the document from mine. Do you have a big enough screen or a second screen?
I don't have a second screen, but that's fine. Is you just want to keep it going on your screen? That's fine.
Yeah, because I've made some potential edits or things that I could edit, we could
All
edit.
right, then you know what? You do it. That's fine, because we shouldn't have, we need to have document control, so
Okay,
you
All right.
you just make the
all right,
change.
just make sure I'm keeping up, okay?
Okay.
Okay. All right. And then let's look at the first article, which
Yeah.
if you could scroll down a
Why-
little bit.
Yeah, why do you, okay,
It's because there's an extra space after recommendations.
oh, there
Yeah.
is, okay.
Yeah, you just have to
I
take that
couldn't
out.
tell that, all right. So that's gone now, okay. So nothing in here,
No, it's standard
Okay.
stuff.
okay. And I didn't put these, I didn't do anything to make these little red lines go in there. I guess it has to do with spacing or something. Looks like it, all right.
Yep.
And then this get all disappear, oops. What was that? Wait a minute.
Control Z.
Yep, I'm gonna do it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're good? Looks
Okay.
like it.
So let's
All
just
right.
stop for a second
Yep,
and
yep,
just look,
yep, yep.
look at the article. Does anyone have any comments about this? It's pretty straightforward.
Why won't these red lines go away?
You know, it's because I was trained with double spaces after
Me
period.
too.
And these newfangled, you know, so-called editors don't like it.
Well, I don't know what to do because it wouldn't,
Oh,
it
let's
went
just leave
away
it.
and then it
No,
came
just
back.
leave it. Just leave it. Leave it.
Okay,
Don't worry
will do.
about it. Just stop fussing. That's what
Right,
you should do.
Good advice, Lynn. Okay,
Yeah.
next.
Stop fun. Let's go on to the next article. Okay, life-saving station. Oh, okay. So I see
Okay,
some
so
edits.
I turned things into red just to remind me that I thought I would have made some effort, edits, just because we use the word secure twice. I would change this one to obtain.
So let us read it. The
Yeah.
best way to do it, Paul, would be
Yes.
to put it in red line mode so that you're tracking changes, but for now, leave it. I'm just saying, but
Okay.
next time
Okay.
around, the best way to handle it is to track changes.
Okay, all right. Well, I could do this, you could do this and I could keep
No,
this.
no, 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 no,
Okay,
no,
all right,
no.
carry on.
Yeah.
Okay,
Listen to Ellen.
listen to, that should be on my wall, a
Yeah,
small
something.
sign.
I
Listen to
like
Ellen.
it. I like it.
Okay, me too. I like it. I think this is quite poetic. Thank you for the writer. Thank you to the writer. Austin.
We can leave it just the way it is. That's the
I'm
way you want
reading,
it?
I'm reading it. Hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
I need a minute. I put them together, but I didn't really read them.
I think that Legion, the second paragraph with the reference to the Legion 215, shouldn't it be which also?
That was exactly what I was going to suggest.
Okay.
Where is that?
Let's
Second,
paragraph, second
Yep.
line. Who becomes which?
Wait a
In the
minute, this is the
supporting
first paragraph.
In the supporting
the second
statement, Paul.
paragraph.
Come on, don't be a dope.
No, this is the first, I can't find it. Just just number the
third
paragraph.
paragraph, second line. Third paragraph, second line.
Third paragraph, okay.
The word who that is underlined in red should switch
Got it.
change it
Okay.
to which.
All right.
Okay.
Which, yep, okay. Okay,
Okay, so in the next paragraph, the time has come to replace the 25-year-old cedar shingle roof, which I would like to add, which is subjected to serious weather in this very exposed location. Can you manage all that, Paul?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
Should we just
I think-
slap it on at the end here?
Yeah,
Um,
is that okay, Ivan, Austin?
Yes, absolutely.
and what do we call it? Exposed to serious weather what? Or just weather? In this location?
In this exposed location.
Okay.
So the other thing is on that third paragraph, the first line where it says Nahant Preservation Trust, after you're done this.
Yep. In this exposed.
Yeah.
All right. Where are we looking?
Go up to the prior paragraph. The town-owned life-saving station has been in the care of the Nahant Preservation Trust. That's where you should do the parentheses NPT after Nahant Preservation Trust.
So we can
That's
use
the
it
first,
again.
because that's the first time it's being used right there.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then you can delete it from, and then in the next paragraph, you can just say the NPT is contributing. Or NPT, I don't know how you refer to it. Is it the NPT or is it NPT?
The Nahant Preservation Trust.
Well, then you have to be consistent. So on the next line down, in addition to their generous contribution, the NPT is applying for.
Okay.
So you just have to decide how we're doing it, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay. Were discussed.
So, are we ready for the next paragraph? I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that we said that other cheaper roofing materials were available. Did we also say that they were less durable, or did I just hallucinate that?
They are less durable, and yes, we did discuss that.
Okay, so we can leave that in.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was a good thing to add.
But cheaper, less durable, and non-historically appropriate roofing materials were discussed. Because there's no, on the second line, there's no indication that cheaper and less durable is not historically appropriate.
Oh, okay. So we could put that up here. Cheaper and less durable. Not historically appropriate materials were discussed, but the consensus is that using such materials
Yeah,
will greatly diminish,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
or would greatly diminish. Will or would?
Will.
Yeah.
Okay. Will greatly diminish the character of this historic and unique structure. Okay.
I loved the last sentence. The one that starts one of the pillars of the Community Preservation Act. I think you did a beautiful job with that, Austin.
Should that be on that first line? Should that be historically inappropriate? Would that be better?
Whatever you think.
Or not historically appropriate? I think I like historically inappropriate.
That's fine. That would be fine.
Okay.
Making the change?
Yeah. It's-
Okay, let's see. So cheaper and less durable and
Cheaper, less durable,
and historically
appropriate.
inappropriate.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay. It's a little
Okay. I'm
anyway,
going to.
it's a little jargony. Okay. Inappropriate?
Inappropriate. Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Okay. I'm feeling like I'm really done on this one. Are we almost
Well,
there?
you're just going to have to wait.
I am. No, I'm.
So Lynn,
Yeah,
I have a comment, maybe,
sure.
so they hired a photographer to come in and take pictures of the roof,
Mm-hmm.
apply for a grant from the state. So if
Mhm.
they receive that money after the town meeting, what
Mhm.
happens to that money? Does the price go down for us or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we would be giving them less money. And so we'll have more that will go back into the general reserve.
Okay, because they hired my brother to take pictures to send in to the state to tell them what
Yeah.
we're.
Yeah, no, I think that that's great.
Yeah.
So Emily's hard at work on that grant application, even as we speak.
Yep.
I also did share, now I'm spending more time on this, I apologize, but I also did share with Austin, who had raised questions about the cost. Um, there's actually already been a quote on the materials for the roof, the roof shingles, as well as the underlayment and so on. That was about $72,000. And then with the labor, which would also include staging and disposal and so on, it is felt that that $180,000 budget makes a lot of sense. I'll remind you what Austin shared with us in the minutes. The trust is applying for this in 2 weeks. They will hear about the grant in June after our town meeting. But the fact that the CPA money is hopefully will be voted at that town meeting makes that whole match situation work correctly. If they get the $50,000 that I think that they'll get, to go back to Dave's question, then the amount that the trust needs from CPA will be reduced by that amount. So we'll just have more money that stays in the general reserve. But I think it's good insurance to actually have the town meeting vote that $150,000 request for the roof. The trust is putting in $30,000, and as I said, if the state puts in $50,000, all to the better. Okay. If we can now go on to Bailey's Hill.
And feel free, like I edited the title here, like I added that title to appropriate the sum of. I don't know
Yep.
if that's right, if that's the right characterization or not.
I think it is. I looked at our past grants or our past articles. I also will be noting, you'll start to see later on that we will have drained down our fiscal year 2026 reserve, and we'll have to start pulling some of the funding sources from other pots. But so far, we're fine on it. This is a very clear supporting statement, very eloquent, written by somebody who actually has been very involved with this project. Thank you, Nancy.
There was absolutely edits made by other members of my committee.
Oh, good. Well, it's nice to have that kind of help. I think we should actually correct the spelling of habitat. That will be 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph down, second line, habitat. Is
think
that
it's
correct?
singular. Okay.
Yeah.
Should probably be hyphenated.
And Paul, I would save this document before you do anything else and just give it a new name, like add a V2 at the end of it so that we can distinguish it from others. Do a
Okay,
save
so
as.
first I'll save it and then I'll save it as, and
Yeah, I
then
do
from
save
ever,
as.
okay.
Yeah.
So let's see, what do you recommend doing?
I would just add like a V2 at the end. I usually add military time to the end of my documents, not after Doc X, but after the 003.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Like,
How's that? Is that what you mean?
yeah,
Okay. All
just
right,
something to
and
distinguish
then,
it from the previous version.
yeah, but this is not where I want it. I
So-
want it somewhere else. Because my, this gizmo is putting it automatically somewhere we don't want it.
Right, so you put it where you
So
need to.
first I gotta go to the CPC. And then I gotta go to the articles. Here they are, the CPC articles.
Right,
Okay, so now this
is there, so just save it now.
is, and they can both sit there,
Yes,
but this is the only one that's gonna change if we keep saving it.
correct.
Got it, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any more discussion
Yep.
on this?
I don't have any. Anyone else?
Is this Nahant's open space and recreation plan or the Nahant open space and recreation plan? Or doesn't it really matter?
I don't think it really matters.
All right, moving right along.
Okay.
Just one thing on that last paragraph with the donation from Swim. I'm not sure if everybody in town knows who that is, so maybe you should spell it out and then do Swim in parentheses and the first time.
Okay,
So
Nahant,
it's
safe
Safer
something, what is
Waters, Safer Waters in Massachusetts.
Inc.
And you should take the word Nahant out of there because it's a 501c3.
it? SETTS. From, and then should we put Nahant swim in parentheses or not?
No,
No,
Okay. Oops. I hate it when these programs have their own idea about what they think I want to do. All right. And there would be, are we gonna have a parentheses with a period on both sides? Oh dear.
yeah,
Yeah, kind
yeah.
of gives you a little bit of a headache.
I don't like it.
Me neither, but that's the
Okay,
way,
stop
that's the
right
way we
now.
gotta live
You-
with it, Ellen.
Okay, you
Next.
punctuation fiends. Take a deep breath.
So
Oh,
just
wait a
take
minute,
out
we gotta get
Nahant.
rid of
There you
this.
go.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
the
Okay.
Pleasant Street Playground.
Pleasant Street Playground. Everybody, let's go play.
Let's go. Should we have library in quotes or parentheses instead?
I wasn't sure if it even belonged. We always called it the library playground when
Yeah, I
my kids
know.
were growing
No.
up. But
No, I
so
don't think we should do that.
do
Just
you
leave
wanna
it the way
take
it
out
is.
completely and just say the
Just
Pleasant Street
Pleasant Street Playground.
Okay,
All right. Next to the library?
No,
No.
in the
Yeah,
supporting
in the-
statement, that's where that comes in.
Okay. Oh, here's a supporting statement, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so you want to leave this usage the way we have it?
It's kind of weird. I didn't know what to do.
Well, I actually wondered about this one because this was one where we said last week, nobody was really that happy with a lot of plastic. They certainly weren't happy with the chapel structure, although there were two other things. I think what we suggested was a phrase that I actually wrote down, that it should be inclusive, age appropriate, durable, and serve art and actually enhance the architectural and educational function of the adjacent public library. I don't
Where-
know if that's too
Where
much.
do you want to put that?
Well, I don't know. Is that too much, folks?
I think it's great.
So Alan certainly has some of that thinking in here with the sensory and cognitive development and neurodiverse populations. So I think she's covered that inclusive phrase.
No, I think Ellen was talking about being socially inclusive.
No.
Not needs inclusive.
Well, isn't that what's described there with
I don't know.
sensory, cognitive, neurodiverse
No,
populations?
no. I think seeing a chapel is a
We would
different thing.
also say, you know, so right after neurodiverse populations, I would suggest them putting in the sentence.
Those other phrases.
Concept, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Right after the neurodiverse populations. And that was me extrapolating from the discussion that Kelly and
Yeah.
Jen were, you know,
Yeah.
saying about some of the things and all the different.
I thought that was a very good, that's a very good phrase, Alan. It really is. Because they were actually offering that.
Right, that's what I remembered.
Mhm.
Things
Well,
have-
I like what you just said, Lynn. I'd like to add that somewhere, either as a complete sentence or at the end of this one.
You could say it will also enhance the, or complement the architectural style of the library.
Mhm.
All right. What else did you say, Lynn?
It, it could complement the architectural presence. Can we say presence of the library?
Sure.
And
Also,
be inclusive, age appropriate, and durable.
okay. Complement the
So,
architectural presence of the library. Is that, we're doing capital L here for library? I don't know. I heard a yes and a no.
I would say public library. I would and capitalize it.
Okay,
Okay, and or in a such a way or something. What came next?
And be inclusive, age appropriate, and durable. And maybe it says and be inclusive.
Yeah, okay, got that. Age appropriate and durable.
Durable.
Okay. It will also complement the architectural presence of the public library and be inclusive, age appropriate, and durable. Okay.
I just want to make a comment. I did go back and look at these playground items that were proposed, particularly the flowers. Those really are not plastic. They're metal and
Yeah.
and are specifically tuned to be musical. Just wanted to make that comment because
that's nice.
I think that's a great thing to be reminded of. They look like plastic, but they're really metal. Okay. I think that the sound element is really interesting.
Musical flowers. Okay.
I think, Ellen, you've got the application is supported by in-kind labor for installation with the Department of Public Works. So we should drop the last comments in parentheses.
Yeah, so I know Tony, he's still on the line. If he could just confirm, because the application did say that it was supported by the DPW, but I don't know to what extent that is. And so if are they going to like pick it up, install it? What, like,
When
because-
what we were referring to there specifically was if we end up installing some of the structures, like the chapel or school building, those ones, our thought was to connect them with like a pavement path painted to look like a striped road. So that pavement work would be done by the DPW funded outside of CPC. We have paving money that we could put towards that, park money we could put towards that. If we don't end up doing that, and we end up buying some of these other structures that just need to be installed into the playground, we may, depending on how the budget works itself out, we could use some of the CPC money for the costs of installing the playground work like we did at Little Nahant with
Mhm.
support of DPW, but it wouldn't, any supporting costs would not come out of the CPC account. So I'm not
Right.
sure if you want, how specific you want to get here, because it's kind of, I think we, like some flexibility because we don't know ultimately what the final, elements are gonna be.
Why don't we just drop after the in-kind labor? Why don't we just drop for installation?
Yeah,
Just say in-kind labor from the Department of Public
That's
Works. That gives you
perfect.
yeah.
the
That's
flexibility,
what
I
I
think.
couldn't tell if it was install or it was unclear. So that's why I'm glad you were on the call tonight, Tony.
Yeah, Tony, we never let you alone here in the town of Nahant. You never have an
was-
evening on your own.
I was feeling left out. I usually
Ah, come on, Tony.
I'm usually on like every CPC meeting. I don't think I've been on one yet, so.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Well, here's your moment. Now we
Right, what do
get
you,
to the
what do you-
library
right.
bond.
What do you do on Monday nights? God,
Oh, man.
So this is a complicated one, Tony, and I don't know if you can see it on your screen. Uh,
I can.
but this is where I have tried to actually convey the overall budget need of some $700,000. My assumption, and you'll see this in the text, is, as we had at least touched on previously, is that the free cash portion of this from the town, $200,000, may be dealt with in a prior article. If that's not the case, then some of the language in this would have to be altered.
Right. So let me try to explain some of that. So the free cash that the town is in support of sending to the library is contingent upon a prior article in the warrant that
Right.
authorizes the town to rescind a free cash appropriation from last year. Because we
Mhm.
found an alternative funding source for the project that money was voted on to be used for last year.
what was that project, Tony?
Water meter replacement.
Okay,
So the alternative method is actually no negative fiscal impact. It's going to help us do the project faster. It helps us achieve another requirement related to lead service lines. There's a whole explanation there that we'll
Sure.
get into. So that article number 6, will be to vote to rescind. Then,
Mhm.
should that article pass later in the warrant, we take on the library stuff. And my thought was that it be combined with the CPC article. We're still waiting on some
Okay.
determination from legal,
Mhm.
but the idea was that the CPC article would basically authorize 700,000 for all of these things. And then this would be in the motion. It would say 500 coming through borrowing from
Got it.
CPC and 200 coming from free cash. That way it gives you a little flexibility. Hold on a second. Rocco, can you? All right. Sorry about that. That way it gives you a little flexibility with the funding sources. So, I haven't been on any meetings and had a chance to like talk to you guys about that in detail in these meetings, but
Well, I don't
you get the
actually.
idea.
Yeah, I do, but I don't love the idea of borrowing a sum of $700,000 in this first line versus $500,000.
No,
Um,
I think the article would have to be written, it would have to be written differently.
Yeah, I think so too.
Um,
So,
to make clear what you want.
Usually
That's-
like our articles that have multiple funding sources will
mhm.
say something along the lines of to appropriate X amount of dollars and then it'll say raise through, appropriation, borrowing, or some other means. It'll then explain the different ways that you raise the funds for the appropriation. So,
Sure.
um,
I used it verbatim, an article, the format that was given to me by town council a couple of years ago for this.
yeah, and this
For
would be,
bonding,
yeah, if it was just bonding, this works perfectly.
right?
But if we're
But
gonna add in that other element under the same article, it may need a little bit more work from legal.
right. So the way I dealt with this is to say later on in the text, which Paul would have to scroll down through this lengthy text. Yeah, if you keep going, Paul. Thank you, Paul. You've got your cursor on it. As you read in the
Right.
prior article, the town is allocating towards $200,000 toward this budget need. So that's how I dealt with this. And it may be, folks, that this is not the time to actually chunk through all of this
Yeah,
in
I think that's
great
right.
detail
Right.
until Tony's had a chance to actually figure out with town council or whoever how this should be handled. Otherwise, I've simply tried to explain in this long explanation the fact that the library has had multiple grants in the past and it still is in need of serious investment up to approximately $700,000. So,
Lynn, I also wanted to, um, I wanted to talk to you about another idea that maybe include in this. Given the amount of grants that have been funded, or CPC funds that have been appropriated for the library, and the number of projects, and sounds like there's public interest in understanding how all of that has gone. If there would be an appetite, whether it be from or even eligible from the CPC portion or through the free cash portion, to include some professional services of a project manager to make sure that, the project is, follows along the priorities of the town, that it's timely, on budget, all that sort of stuff. So I just wanted to, throw that out there for consideration. Obviously, it's brand new to you, so not to be decided on tonight, but I think it may help with support for the article at town meeting.
Do you have a sense of the cost of that? And Lynn, the question I would have is, does that fall under the professional services?
yeah,
That would be
it will.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, it does, Ellen. I'm just trying to look at the library grant application to see how this, because I bumped this up a little bit. I think that past experiences suggested that bumping it up wasn't the worst idea. And I'm looking at the application now. They actually had asked for 332,000. And they're putting in just over $30,000. So I've got this at 350 now. Tony, the usual budget for owners, project managers, in my experience, is 3% of the construction budget. That's great when you're dealing with projects in the state. It's a project of $1.5 million and above. For a smaller project like this, I would think that the fee would need to be larger, quite honestly, because it's just not proportionally, working. Do you have a person in mind for this, Tony?
I do, but we could put a pin in that, and you and I can
Okay.
follow up. And
Okay.
I just was thinking about, the conversation at town meeting and
Yeah,
and
think
that sort
that's-
of thing. And I could see, I
Yeah.
just want people who are voting on this to have confidence that it's going to be managed, properly and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate what you're saying. So Tony, we can work on this together further. I think that's what we're saying tonight.
Yeah.
Um, I would, Tony, I will say that I'm really trying to get in front of FinCom next week.
Okay.
I'd like to have us meet as a committee as we had planned on the 10th, but I wanted to reach out to FinCom. In fact, I don't know if Deborah's still on the call or not. Deborah, are you here?
So Lynn, I have a couple of questions for Tony.
Sure. Yeah.
First of all, Tony, thank you for all the work you're doing. Is this $200,000? Is that certified from the state? Or what is the certified free cash that we have available?
This year's amount is around 800,000. It's less than what we've enjoyed in the previous years. But it's actually more in line with where we should be on an annual basis. Previous years, we've enjoyed a, increase in free cash because of all that COVID money and those related things. So, what I was talking about, Dave, was money, $200,000 of free cash that we appropriated last year at town meeting for the water meter project.
I
And
see.
it actually was accompanied with 170,000 from water retained earnings. And the approach there was to do the total water meter project is anywhere from 800,000 to $1 million. And our approach was to do a multi-year phase, 3-year phased approach. But now, in speaking with MWRA, we have the authority to utilize zero interest loan program through the MWRA to fund the full project and get it done in a year versus over 3, which actually helps us with our lead water service line inventory requirement. Because when we go to replace those meters, we'll be able to test the material of the service line coming into the home. So there's a lot to it, Dave.
Yeah.
But we're still pursuing that project. We're hopefully going out for procurement in the next couple months here. We're still pursuing the project.
So I'm just thinking years ago, there was free cash and it was spent before it was certified by the state. So
Oh.
you're telling me that this money was from last year's free cash that was voted at a town meeting?
Yep. And our free cash, that 800,000 that we have for the upcoming year has been certified by the state as well.
So is that 800,000? Is it 200,000 coming out of that free cash?
No,
No?
it's 200 is coming from last year's amount.
All right. So the other question I have is, you're talking about a project manager. Is that like the clerk of the works? Who,
Similar.
yeah, that understands, reads the blueprints and,
Yeah.
works with the contractor.
Yeah, I think, for me, I think the big piece of it is, having a central location that is keeping track of all documents, spending, change orders, contracts, all of those things. To be fair, it's unfair to put something like that on Nori, the librarian.
Yes,
It's
agreed.
unfair to put that on the trustees or the building committee who are volunteers.
For sure.
If we had a facilities manager, it would be that person's role.
Right.
So I-
So it's like that, having that one central location or one person that the project manager kind of reports to and then makes decisions with advisement from the trustees and the town administrator, that sort of thing.
So I understand that because we did the school project and was up to, I was on a school committee then, and we hired a clerk of the works, which, worked with a contractor, then came back to the committee or and advised us what was going on. And I'm just happy that, you're thinking about doing that and not putting it on to the trustees or the librarian, and can come back to you or, or on what's going on if there's more money that's needed. That's all. Thanks.
Those are great questions. Thank you, Dave. I am looking at the budget detail that was provided with this grant application, Tony. So I think it's just something that we could look at together, where I can make sure that you see it and then think about what kind of budget you would like to recommend for the owner's representative.
Yeah, let's catch
Okay.
up tomorrow or the next day or something sometime soon. But also
Sometime soon, so Tony, because I
Yeah.
want to be able to peg these
Right.
articles so we can get, I know that FinCom is going to have, it's just going to chew around the edges.
yeah.
And I really would love to give them the time to do that.
Yeah,
Yep.
it'd be nice if you and Tony can have a meeting of the minds this week and write something up and send it to us. We can look
Yep.
at it and then run right through it next Monday night, I hope.
Exactly, Paul. That's exactly what I'm hoping.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
I'd also like to get a response from legal, from like bond
Yeah.
counsel,
yeah,
Right, exactly.
on
Yeah.
um the
otherwise, I
wording
think
of
if,
the article.
right. And otherwise I see, Paul, that, or somebody has added some edits that look very, look good. But let's just keep that
Yeah,
in
we'll just leave it the way it is.
the
It
new
it isn't in
document.
final form.
Yep. So let's go on to the next article, please. Okay, this is where we get into the house, what we're calling the housekeeping articles. So the first is the $10,000 for administrative costs. Then moving down, I did reorder the bond articles. So they kind of followed a sequence that I thought made some more sense to me than when I first did them. So that's why I simply have highlighted them. What I'd like to point out in this first one, which is the article that would retire the fiscal year 19 bond, is that we have to start splitting the sources of funding. The balance that is available to us from the this year's appropriation of $432,000 and change would be $55,170. And so the balance needed to fund the total retirement of the bond of $184,000 is $128,890.91, which comes from the general reserve.
Okay. Should we call that the CPC General Reserve? Or am I wrong about that?
No, you're not wrong about it. It just seems redundant, but okay, we can do that.
Well, the town has a general reserve also, I would imagine, so that's the only reason I wanted to add that.
Okay. Then I actually wouldn't use CPC. I would write out community preservation.
Oh, yeah, you're stressing my typing skills. All
I
right.
know it. I know it. Got to do something here.
So is it CPA or CPC?
Community preservation. Just all.
We'll just leave it like that. How's that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
It's not our committee's money. It's community preservation's money. Okay. Then,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Then if we can go to the next article. this is for the fiscal year, for the library, the $500,000 public library town hall bond from 2021. We're only paying the interest. I still need to, I was trying to get Allison to help me understand why just interest only. I'm saying for reasons of economy, we're proposing to pay interest only. If we had more money to spend, I would add more for principal. And that's a further discussion, folks. Then the next one is the $350,000 from the 2022 town meeting. And that's interest and principal of $30,000 and change.
Lynn, on
We
that,
capitalized general reserve last time. Should we do the same?
Sure, that's fine.
Lynn, on number 8 there,
Mhm.
in the sheet that you sent with the clawbacks, it looked like there was some additional funding in the library town hall item, and Allison had put a note, something like used
Tony, I've
towards-
taken care of it. I've taken care
Oh,
of
all
it.
right, sorry. Okay, never mind.
I know you don't have time to look at all this stuff, but as soon as Allison said that, I said, okay, I took care of it. So the only thing, there's only like 2 things, Tony, that are in your camp, if you possibly want to look at throwing it into the clawback side of things. But you'll be able to look at that tomorrow.
No, I looked at them, but on this, I just brought it up because I didn't know you had said you only do an interest, and if there was more money.
There is more money. So that's one thing that we'll look at, but let's look
Oh,
at it in sequence.
Okay.
Now I'm being like a really school teachery kind of thing. Sorry about that. Then we go down to the clawbacks. And so good news, this $88,000 could increase with that $17,000 to $105,104 and 54 cents. 105, 104. That's perfect, Paul. And then we've got all these little ones. I would be adding the $17,000 from the Dory Club float thing. And so, folks, what this says is that with our grant appropriations at the levels that we've all agreed on and these clawbacks, we end up having a net difference of about $70,000. So to the point that Tony was guiding us, we could actually increase the amount of pay down of principal. It depends on how much we want to hold in, it's $17,000, not 18.
Would that be
For the-
something that the FinCom would want to have some say over, or are they gonna look at our recommendations?
They always want to have say over it, and I fight like a fiend because I don't want them to tell us what to do. Tony
Got it.
knows that. Paul knows
Well-
it. Because they don't really have control over what this committee does.
No.
But I'm certainly try to be polite, and, I am polite and, all that kind of good stuff. But I
I
think the
guess-
initiatives should come from us, quite honestly.
Okay, okay.
You don't want to make them feel that they thought of it and it's a good idea.
I don't care about, they're thinking about good ideas.
Well, yeah, it's really, it's. My inclination is if we have, you balance it with how much do we want to have on hand in reserve too, right? That's like a huge
That's
deal.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
We could either have $70,000 or we could have $40,000 and put $30,000 towards that bond.
Yeah, I
It's-
guess. I mean, are you soliciting opinions on this right now?
Yeah,
I, knowing all I know, I would still say to try and pay down some of that principal. Seems the prudent thing to continue to try to do, because, you know, it's not gonna go away.
how much money do we want to have in general reserve? Let's start
My
with that.
suggestion would be 50,000 in reserve and apply 20,000 to principal.
Mhm.
I'd go along with that.
Yeah, 50,000 is a good amount.
Okay. Nancy? Are you still with us?
Sorry, having technical issues.
Okay. That's all right. Nancy, I'm just trying to sort of poll folks.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that suggestion. There's no designated amount we have to keep in there, is there?
Nope.
No,
And it doesn't accrue interest or anything, so it doesn't help us.
Well, it does accrue interest. We will be getting I always get a small amount of interest from Allison on that.
Right,
But I think when you actually look at Allison's bond calculations, which she shared with us earlier today, the more we're able to do to pay down our bonds, the better off we are. Because lurking, off to one side is the potential of $1.5 million
right.
for the Northeastern situation and East Point protection. So we simply have to be aware of this. And Allison has kindly given us the information, which may be not so kind to look at, but it really does show the obligations that we have in front of us. So I'm hearing.
I asked her to give you kind of like a financial outlook of what your bond payments are in the coming
Mhm.
years currently, what it
Mhm.
would look like if the additional 500,000 for library were to be approved, and then just kind of note that you still have that 1.5 as well. Is
Yeah.
that what
No,
she
it was a
over?
great chart. It was a great chart.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, no, she sent that earlier to us. The entire
Good.
committee has now seen it twice today, because I resent it later on, but it is very helpful. So I'm just scrolling back up. What we're looking at doing is adding $20,000 to that fiscal year 22 library town hall bond payment. Is everyone sort of nodding in an agreeable fashion about
Yep.
that idea?
Yep,
Okay.
sounds good to me.
Okay. Great. Well, I think we've made really good progress tonight. And I think the one thing that we're going to have to sort of chunk through after Tony has advised us is the library funding situation.
Right.
So does anyone have any further comments or concerns about what we've touched on, described, edited, chewed on tonight?
Lynn, just with the work at the library, would it be appropriate to make the suggestion that all the envelope work gets addressed first before the other projects? Just to be sure that that is all stabilized and there's enough funds for it.
I hear you. I hear you. I was looking at their budget application just a few minutes ago. Let I understand what the intent of what you're saying, and I'll sort of add words to that effect. So, Ellen, we and Paul, but are you able to then save this edited version and send this out so I can
I
work
saved
on
it.
this?
Everything that you saw me add is saved.
Okay. So if you could
And-
send that to me or
Yep.
to the entire committee,
Yep.
then, and including Tony and Allison, then Tony and I will work through
Okay,
the library funding situation.
all right.
Okay, folks, if there's nothing else, there's this great moment coming.
Lynn, you've made it by 8:30.
It's 8:23 and
Yeah,
I'm looking
I
for a
move we
motion.
adjourn.
I second that motion.
Okay. All in favor? Dave,
Hi,
Nancy,
I don't have.
maybe she's still blocked right now. Ellen,
Aye.
Austin,
Nancy, I.
Nancy says aye. Okay. Paul,
Aye,
Lynn says aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
very
It has
good.
been a
I'll put
terrific
that, I'll put that in the mail to you all right now.
Okay. Really great collaborative effort. Tony, we
Yep.
miss you, but we thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right, folks.
Good night.
Be well.